There you go. Well, on my recording today, I have Ruth Dawson. I'm Dr. Cecil Cocker. And Ruth is going to share her story with everybody, how she met me, what was going on in her life, and how she reconnected with me some years later and took training from me. But Ruth is a success story, if there's ever been one. And I think once you hear her story, you can say that she's actually a walking miracle. So I want to give you now Dr. Ruth Dawson. I'm going to call you doctor because once this is given, you'll probably have your doctorate degree one day. So I'm going to call you Dr. Ruth. All right. So anyway, the time is yours. So you go for it, girl.
Okay. Good day, everybody. My name is Ruth Dawson. I used to always tell Dr. C I was his poster child.
Yes.
I met Dr. C back in 1993. Um, I was going through a rough time in my life. I mean, like most people, you grow up, you do the next thing after you graduate high school, get a job, and then you get married and everything's going great. And then all of a sudden, a shoe falls off.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then everything happens. I was married for 20 years, had three wonderful children. At that time, the ages were 18, 14, and 8. And we all thought we had a wonderful life going. We were in the ministry. My then husband was a minister, a pastor of a church, and we thought everything was good until one day he decided he wanted a new life. And unfortunately, when a person thinks that they want something for themselves, they're only thinking about themselves, but they don't realize the repercussions it does to everybody else. Um, we were excommunicated from our church because, of course, as a minister in the ministry, yeah, back then, this was in 1993, remember, they did not really allow divorced couples, separated couples to still be in the ministry. And it's devastating enough to lose a husband. It's devastating enough to not know where your future is. But then when you think that God can't use you anymore, that the church can't use you anymore, it really pulls the carpet from under your feet, and you don't know which way is up or which way is down. And it was during that time that, Christian counseling back then was a luxury.
Yeah.
Only people with money, big churches offered that. Your regular smaller churches, because we came from a lower income community, so these were small. Um, um, there it was a Spanish speaking churches, and they were small, very traditional, Pentecostal. So they had very strict rules, and there really wasn't a place for me in that church any longer. So talk about identity crisis,
Yeah.
self-esteem issues, um, uh, anxiety, depression, you name it. I think I had all the the symptoms, everything. And it's funny though, or it's funny now, not then, because I didn't realize what the symptoms to depression were. I
Mm.
didn't realize that all that stress and anxiety can manifest physically in your health. I didn't realize that stress from divorces not only hits you in your marital status, but now it hits your financial,
Yeah.
your economy. It affects, like I said, your health, the stability of your children. You
Yes.
know, because you're fighting against the statistics in this world, and when the church lets you down, or you think the church lets you down,
Then
um,
where do you go?
yeah, where do you
Where do you
go? And
go?
I remember as a child, when you go to Galveston and you're jumping the waves, and I was little, and we walked too far deep into the water, and a wave took me under.
Oh.
And when the wave took me under, I couldn't tell which was up and which was down. My feet wasn't touching the ground, and I was struggling to get back out of the water. And it wasn't until the hand of my dad pulled me out, then I was able to breathe. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that is what I needed in my life. I didn't know which way was up or down, and I really needed God to pull me out of it. But even that seemed kind of impossible because I didn't know how to get to Him, because it seemed like everything I was taught and everything I believed in. I've heard you say this before, Dr. C. Religion um, can do more damage than good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in the hands of man
Mm.
and not godly men, it gets manipulated
Oh, yes.
to their accommodation. And because we're trying to be good little Christians and good little girls and have good families and do the right thing, we tend to follow the rules.
Yeah.
So when you break the rules, now this anxiety gets you about, I'm not going to make it to heaven. I'm not going to be used by God.
Yeah.
But even through all of that, I knew I needed help. I knew I needed help. I prayed, I cried, I tried to seek people that were godly people. But the quote that most godly people say, "Oh, God wouldn't give you this if you know just to give it to you. He's going to give you the strength to see it through. He's going to turn it around.
Oh, yeah.
Just keep praying. God is with you." And you hear it, but somehow you don't believe it because
Yeah.
you're not seeing it. You're not seeing God's hand moving into your life. You're just seeing everything dropping and dropping and dropping. And you're wondering, because of our religious upbringing, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, um, I like to think that I was the good little Christian girl. I know my father was a minister, and he had that's a whole nother story there. But he brought us up to know what's right and wrong. We didn't drink, we didn't curse, we didn't go to dances, we didn't do this and that and whatever. So I figured since I did all the do's and not the don'ts, that my life was going to be without trials and tribulations. But as
Yeah.
we all know, that that's just not true, because as we get older and we go through the trials and tribulations, the most important part we see is that God is God, and we
Yeah.
see His hand in our life. So
Yeah.
when I decided that I needed help because I had seeked everybody that I could, and it's funny when people cry and complain about the situation, you start sounding like a broken record, and people don't want to hear you anymore.
No.
They don't want to be around you anymore. They try to stay away from you, and you feel all alone.
Yeah.
So I started to look for a Christian counselor. But like I said before, it was only in the big churches that they offered it. And the few places that didn't, they really charged a lot of money, which
Yeah.
I didn't have. I mean, I was only working at $10 an hour back then. And I had a mortgage of $500 a month, a car notes, and kids. And I mean, it was just too much. And unfortunately, my ex husband, before he left us in bankruptcy. So
Oh,
I had to
wow.
deal with that too. But I was very vulnerable. I was very lost. And I just cried out to God one day and I said, God, you've got to help me. You've got to you send me to the right person, or just let me die.
Mm.
If you can't solve my issue, then just kill the pain and let me go. But we know that that's not the answer. That is never the answer to take one's life. But after several calls, guess whose number I dialed? And that was Dr. C. And back then, you had a little gray hair, but not as much as you have now. But your voice has always been a soothing and comforting voice. And your
Great.
voice was always a listening voice. And you heard my cry, you heard
Yeah.
the distress that was in my voice, and you told me to come. You
Yeah.
told me to come, and you were
Yeah.
way across town. This was when you were working out in A-Leaf,
Yeah.
and you were the only one that did not speak of a fee or anything. You just said to come.
Exactly.
And so I knew this had to be a godsend. I knew that, this was going to be the help. But Dr. C, back then I was driving this 85 Suburban, a gas guzzler. And I said, oh my gosh, I hope it gets me there and I hope it gets me back home. But all the way up there, I thought what you were going to ask me, were we going to
Yeah.
talk about the problem?
Yeah.
Were you really going to be able to help me? And how long was it going to take? Or was this going to be therapy for years and years and years? So I had a lot of questions, but when I met you there at the school, because you were doing a night school, you
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
And
I taught
so
school 3 nights a week.
yeah, so I went there and I met you there, and it was great because you were able to see me during the hours that I wasn't working. And so I was able to meet with you. And I want to say we met just a handful of times. We didn't meet
Yeah.
very often.
No, I don't think we did.
Yeah. But what I was impressed with, and I still hold it very dear to me because I think that was the difference between you and other therapists. I got to you, and one question you asked me was why I was there and
Yeah.
did I want to change?
Yeah.
And remember that paper you gave me that when you change,
Yes. Yes.
and so I kept it with me all these years, and I have handed it out to everybody who is in need. But I do have it, and it made so much sense to me when you made me read it out loud. One of the things that later on I realized was a lot of what you told me that night was I had to speak it
Yeah.
out loud. And what I didn't realize was that I was using all my senses when I did that. I was reading it off of the paper, so my eyes were occupied, my
Yeah.
brain was occupied, I was saying it out loud. My ears could hear it.
Yeah.
My hands, my touch was involved because I was holding the paper, and
Yeah.
the words actually made sense. That how we change is when we change the way we believe, which
Hmm.
changes the way we react, the way we respond to things,
Yeah.
and then it changes everything, our belief system. And when I read that, it just began to make sense about why, when I was married to this man and everything was going good, we believed we were married, we believed we were meant to be, and everything was working well. But the moment he thought that he wanted something new, that changed how he acted, that
Yeah.
changed his demeanor towards us, that changed his behavior, that changed everything. His
Yes.
wording towards us, his the way he started to think about the future and everything, and eventually it changed him.
Yes. Yes. That little saying is so true, isn't it?
It is, and I kept it with me because it was an eye opener to everything else inside of me, meaning that, well, if I wanted to change this sorry, depressing, sad looking woman who couldn't do anything, I mean, I almost lost my job because I was so depressed and I was
Mm.
crying all the time and I was having all kinds of issues with the kids and stuff that it was affecting my job. And so I thought, even it affected even my appearance. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
weird because I was so sullen. I was so sad. Even my children would say, Mom, pick up your head. Mom, lift up your head. You look too sad, you
Mm.
know? And I never realized it. But when I see the pictures, oh,
You can see it.
you could see the life just out of me. And it wasn't
Yeah.
in my eyes anymore. The sparkle you have in your eyes. I couldn't smile anymore. Um,
Mm.
he, he literally stole the smile off my face, literally.
Wow. Wow.
And it was too, it was just a whole transformation. So after reading that paper, I realized, you know what? I've got to change the way I think. I
Yes.
was married, but I'm not married now. So
Right.
I've got to start living for me and my children. although the church told me they couldn't use me anymore, I had to find a church where they could use me, where I
Yes.
could belong to another family again, where I could be ministered to, because I was during that was my season to be ministered to.
Yes.
I needed care, I needed support, and I wasn't getting it from my family, and I wasn't getting it from my old church family. So, um, through your help and help of other people, I found another church that was able to help me. Uh,
Wonderful.
I, I took. I don't know if you remember. You gave me several pamphlets, and one of them was because you asked me about my relationship with God.
Yeah.
What was my relationship with God? And nobody ever asked me that. So I didn't know how to respond. I mean, I believed in God, I was saved, I've been in the church all my life. I was a Sunday school teacher, a minister's wife, you ladies and young people leader. So I thought my relationship was good. But then you talked to me about not being in fellowship with Him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you explained it to me that first night we met, um, it made sense to me, because it's just like any family member. That's your mom, your dad, your brother, and your sister, but then they move away and you don't see each other so much. You make the phone calls every now and then, but it's not an everyday contact interaction.
The
And so,
relationship is one thing, fellowship is
yes,
another.
yes. And so my relationship with God was not on a daily, every moment basis. I thought it was, but it really wasn't. And so we went into scripture to find out who God was. But more importantly, because of my self esteem, the way it was, and who I thought I was, you helped me find out who I was in God. And to me, that was so unheard of. I never really even thought, how does God see me? You know, how does He created me? I know, but I didn't know that He took pleasure in me. I
Yeah.
did not know that He cared so much about me that He wanted me to give Him my burdens. I didn't know that um, He delights in me,
Yes. Yes.
and that He finds me, I'm precious in His sight.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's a love that was unheard of to me, because my love always required service, and my love always required a price. My love always required to do something.
Yeah.
And this was given to me freely from God.
Exactly.
And it was hard. It was hard for me to even conceive. But the more I realized what I had learned in my previous religious upbringing,
Yeah.
not that it
Oh yeah.
was horrible and bad, but it was kind of one sided.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the whole picture of God. And the more that I read His Word, because that's the one thing that I learned from you that I don't ever leave out, is the Word of God.
Yeah.
To see
Exactly.
what His Word says about my situation, what His Word says about my future, what His Word says about how to raise my family. Yeah, we all learn the Bible verses: honor thy mother and father, and be kind, and all. We memorize them all, but to put them in effect on a daily basis, that's
Yes.
another story.
Yeah.
And it's when we do that that we see the hand of God. We see Him really move, and we see Him in us making that transformation. You also gave me a Bible verse that night about capturing our thoughts,
Yes.
taking
Yes.
those thoughts captive. And
Yes.
remember, you told me we had to replace it with the Word of God.
Yes.
And because at that time the depression was so hard, you only think about the problem, the problem, the problem. What did I do? What did I do? You don't think about nothing else. But when you gave me that assignment, I started to get those 3x5 cards, those index cards.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so On one side, I would put, okay, finances. Then I'd find scriptures that dealt with my finances. So when I
Right.
thought about I didn't have enough money to pay my bills, I would read the scriptures that He gives us more than we ask for.
Yes.
That it's, you know, and so I started writing those when it was about my health.
Yeah.
I would write down scriptures that says, I will not die, but I will live and declare the works of God.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and that He would be with me up to my gray hairs. Well, I'm going to get gray totally one day, but God will still be there with me. He will see me through it. And even about my children, in Deuteronomy, that He would restore to me all that I thought I had lost. And
Yeah.
Dr. C, I saw these Bible verses come to pass,
Yes, you did.
you know. And I mean, like I said, you and I met maybe 3 times, and then I brought you my children because amidst of what I was going through, Rachel was struggling. She was the youngest one. She was sleeping all the time, which I did not know she was depressed. And so she needed counseling also. And you counseled her. And then Sweetie tried to kill herself, and you counseled her
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
And I don't think you counseled Roy.
I don't think I did. I don't think
No,
I
because
counted
by
Roy.
that time he was already 18. And then as the years went by, he just stayed with me for 2 more years and then he got married and he moved on his own.
Yeah.
And
No, I don't
so,
think I ever worked with Roy.
yeah, no. And he went, you know, he did good as best as he could under the situation, but all 3 children struggled with the, the hole in their heart. And the biggest damage that I think out of this divorce came out was their faith in God
Hmm.
was left shaken.
Yeah.
And so they didn't know how to trust God again or to believe in God. So that was very challenging to keep them active in the church, keep them active in believing in God. Although I have to say, they've all gone through different seasons when they were, I mean, close and seeking Him every day, and then seasons when they weren't. So um, I'm glad to see that some of them still remember some of the techniques you showed them and some of the techniques you showed me because it's quite a few techniques that you shared with us in order to help us through our anxieties, our
Yeah.
concerns, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but it got me back on my feet, and it got me back on my feet. So with a new hunger to seek Him more, and a new excitement to see what else God was going to do in my life. Uh,
Wow.
you know, after those first 3 meetings, I hung on to my job. In fact, I've celebrated 32 years with the company I've been working with since I met you.
Wow. Has it been that long?
It's been 32 years that I have with this company.
Wow.
And
I must be getting older.
well, I blinked my eyes, Dr. C, and here we are. So I can only imagine. And all my kids are married. They all have children, children in colleges, children having children. So they're, you know, right now I have 13 grandchildren.
Wow. Wow.
So, so it is so funny, Dr. C, because the ex-husband told me no one would ever love me. He told me that I would be all alone and my children would abandon me. But
Mhm.
it's very true what the scripture says in Deuteronomy that He did restore everything that I lost,
Oh.
including a husband.
Oh yeah. You found a real gem of a husband.
Well, you know, Dr. C, that, like I said, that poem about when you change, I decided, you know, to write a list of what I wanted in my future husband. And so we prayed about it every day. We prayed about that for 5 years, Dr. C, how I
Wow.
wanted a husband, because I didn't want a religious man. I wanted a godly man. And it
Yes.
took me a long time to even believe that God would send me a husband, because for a long time, and you know how religions are, once you're divorced, you're not supposed to get married again. You committed adultery, and on and on and on.
Oh yeah.
And I went
Oh
through a
yeah.
lot of researching scriptures and even religions, trying to see what God really says about marriage, what He says really about divorce and everything. And God is a good God. He is such a merciful God and a wonderful God. He isn't as judgmental as us humans. And you told me one time that we make awful gods, and we do. We do. And so I started to pray on it, and I started to believing or start praying and asking God, out of His mercy, if He did send me a husband, this is, He's a God of specifics. If
Oh
you just
yeah.
sort of
I
tell him,
love the way you wrote it out. It's exactly what you wanted.
yes, because I mean, I wanted a godly man who was after God's own heart. He didn't
Yep.
have to be religious, but that he loved God and he had good
Yep.
morals. And I want him to be a good father to my girls, and I wanted to be him be a good provider. We even put down that we wanted him to drive a pickup truck. I don't know why, but we wanted him to love music. We wanted him to love animals. We wanted him to have his own business so that he could have time to spend with the family and stuff. Um, that he liked singing. Music is a big piece of our family, so we love singing and music. And God sent me my Boaz, just like in the
Yes.
Bible.
Yeah.
Um, he is a man who he too, like we were just talking the other day, and he says we are all broken people. But it is
Hmm.
God from God's mercy and grace that we surrender to Him, and He puts our pieces back together. But we're all
Yeah.
damaged in some form or some way, and He uses that to put us back together, but not just to show the world that we're back together, but to help others,
Yes.
to
See,
guide
your
others.
story here is going to help others. See, your
Because
story.
there is hope, and
Yes.
that's the problem with broken people and lost people is they lose their hope,
Yep.
and God is our only hope. And when Brad came into our life, Dr. C, I was in a lot of debt. I was in a lot
Hmm.
of debt because during that time I became, like I told you, depression, anxiety manifests itself in your body, and I became very ill. Uh,
Yes, I
I
remember
I
that.
had a blockage in my intestine,
Yeah.
and I couldn't hold food down, and I thought it was just stress. I thought it was just the idea of the divorce going on, because every time he called me I would be sick, violently sick.
Mm.
But this particular day my intestines ruptured, and when that ruptured I had to go to the emergency room. And this is how good God is. I went in there just for a colonoscopy, and because they were trying to find out what was causing me to lose weight and why I couldn't keep food down. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do the colonoscopy because of the blockage. But unfortunately, because of all the medication they gave me, the liquids they gave me, it ruptured the intestine. And they gave
Mm.
me 15 minutes to call my children, get into into the operation, and have it taken care of. And this is how good God is. The pastor that I had was already there. My best friend was there. She made sure I had my kids there. They prayed for me. I went into the emergency operation, and they cleaned it up, fixed it up. I had to have several operations after that, but where when the doctor told me I could have died,
Hmm.
that it was that bad, because when your intestines rupture, you have all that bacteria
Yeah.
spread all over your body. And when I
Yeah.
woke up from my surgery, Dr. C, my stomach, my abdomen area was open. It
Mm.
was just held open because they had to let the cleaning and everything go. I mean, freaked me out. But it made me realize that God was not through with me yet.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
he had, because I mean, I thought, well, who's going to take care of my kids? Who's going to watch my children? How are they, who's going to support them? And you know how weird some people think. When my ex-husband heard I was sick, He was living down in the valley. He came back to Houston thinking I was going to die and he could pick up the kids in the house.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that's what
Wow.
he thought. And he came back,
Wow.
but God had other plans.
Yes, he did.
And so I got better. Like I said, I had other surgeries after that. And those bills were adding up and adding up. And I had even an opportunity arose where I almost lost my house. And the
Mm.
very supervisor that called me in his office to fire me um, lent me the money to pay my house and help me keep my job. Uh,
Wow.
he
How
was
nice.
he he was an atheist, but
Mm.
I talked to him about God, and he saw everything I went through, and he's already deceased now, but before he died, he came to know God,
Wow.
and we were friends till he passed away. I was there by his bedside when he passed away, and he came to know the Lord, and I am so grateful that God used somebody
Yeah.
who didn't believe in God to help me keep my job and keep my house.
Isn't that
And
nice?
I mean, see, but no matter how I look at it, God had everything already planned out. He had
Yeah.
everything already orchestrated. I mean, everything, even though I thought it was the most horrible, worst thing that could happen, something good came out of it. And it
Yes.
continued to be good. And it continued to be good. So when God sent Brad into our life, I met him in church. I met him at the church I was going to, the new church I was going to, because now I was trying to not look at the past anymore, not hang on, but to see
Good.
the new thing that God was trying to do with me. You know that Bible verse that says, "Let the old go and reach
Yeah.
for the new that he's creating." So I
Yeah.
started to reach out for new things, and I started going to this church where um, I wanted to be like the people there at the church. They had hope, they had joy. They were doing all kinds of things for the community, and we were active. And I think God was really showing me there is more than just what I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I started going there to the church, I joined the choir. I had the kids involved in the youth group and stuff. um, I spoke to you off and on as things arose, but it wasn't too much. And so then God sent Brad in one of it was a Sunday morning. He walked into our, it's a seniors group, because now I was a middle-aged woman. And so he came in, and I saw him, and I turned away, and I said, I told my friend, I'm going to marry that man.
All
And
right.
she laughed, and she said, okay. And he saw me look at him, and he came straight to my chair, and he said, is anybody sitting there? And I said, no. And then I gave him my back, and he sat down. And so, but ever since that, he never stayed away from me. We went into the sanctuary, we went to church. Then as a group, a church group, we went to eat. He went along with us. And I really liked that senior group, because we did a lot of activities together in a group rather than singles, being on dates and stuff. So it was like a lot of group dating and stuff. So till we got to know each other. But
Sure.
right away, Brad knew he found his wife, and
And you found your husband.
I found my husband. And um just like Boaz redeemed Ruth, so did Brad. The first thing he wanted to do after he decided he wanted to marry me was he wanted all my bills, everything that I owed, because he didn't want our marriage to start in debt.
That's a godly man.
And Dr. C, I gave him like the light, the house note, the easy bills. He says, is this everything? And I go, well, I have other bills that like people I owe, the medical bill. I want them all. It was over
Really?
10, it was over $10,000 worth of bills.
Wow.
And he called them. He made arrangements with the lawyers. He made arrangements with all of them. He paid them all off so that when we did get married, because I met him in April and we got married in July. So by the time we got married, all everything was paid off.
Wow.
And he began remodeling our house because it was in very, very bad condition, and he needed repair. And he was so funny because he goes, "You're used to living down here, and I'm used to living up here. And if you let me, I will bring you up here. But if you want me to come down there, it's not going to work."
All right.
And so if I was any other prideful woman, I would have said, "You crazy? This is my house." No, but I knew that God had sent him with a purpose
Yeah.
to give us a better life. And so I said, "No, we will do whatever it takes." It would we didn't have better because we couldn't. I said, "But we will do whatever it takes to get it better." And if it meant for the girls to change their little ways as far as their housekeeping ways, they had to be a little bit neater, a little bit cleaner, but it wasn't to hurt them. It was in order to make them better people, more productive people. And I was just in awe, Dr. C, because God puts his house in order. He
Yeah.
likes order. And he sent me a man that put our house back in order. And there were beautiful rewards for them when they did, when they followed the rules. And again, to me, this was a godly man because
Now,
he was
now
trying.
is that before you met me at Sagemont?
Yes, because I'm getting to that. I'm getting to after we got married, and I want to say at least a year had gone by. You came to Gulf Meadows.
Yeah,
Yeah, you came to Gulf Meadows, and
I
that's the
sure
church we
did.
were going to.
Yeah.
And it was several years now that had passed by, and I looked up to you, and there you were bringing your certification class.
Yes.
Remember, you were bringing the certification class for anybody that wanted to go, that they could go get certified. And you were talking, and I looked at you, and I told my husband, "I think I know him." And Sweetie's the one who recognized you, and she said, "That's the counselor you went to." And I said, "Oh my God!" And I felt bad, Dr. C, because we lost 3 years or so, and I hadn't contacted you or told you how things had improved for me or how I did. And so I went up to you a little embarrassed, a little ashamed, but I told you what had all happened, and I was interested in going to your certification class. And you told us where it was going to be, how long it was going to be. And I talked to my husband about it when we got home. And I told him how much it was going to cost and everything. And he says, "No, no, sign up. You're going to go." You
Really?
know, and that is so different because my first husband did not, he felt threatened if I wanted to seek anything to improve myself, or he didn't like my status with God, or trying to seek him, or when people would give me honors, he didn't like that. And Brad is so different from that because I always tell him, "You give me more freedom than I've
Yeah.
ever known," you
Yeah.
know and he doesn't feel threatened, and he doesn't feel um, like he has to hold me down. On the contrary, grow, grow,
Yeah.
grow, grow. And that was one thing that he told me that I didn't know how to handle. He told me when we got married, "Do not make me the center of your universe.
Very
God
good.
needs to be the center of your universe, and not me."
Good.
And and in my culture, that's unheard of,
Mm.
because you know in my culture, in the Hispanic culture, your husband and your son and your children are your everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they come way before you ever do. And when he told me that, I thought, well, I'm going to jump on it. And Dr. C, the very first class you gave there in the certification, you talked about how we walk in the spirit and how we walk in the flesh.
Yes.
But you mainly talked about how God has been always in our life from the time we
Yes.
were born.
Yes.
You know, He has been by my side, whether I acknowledged Him or not. He has been there. He had
Yes.
everything planned out. And when I went to my car, I just cried because
Wow.
you answered questions that I thought I was gonna I thought I was gonna have to wait till I got to heaven and ask God personally there. And you answered questions about why I went through my divorce, why I suffered and struggled with my health. You answered questions about all of it because God was always there. And
Yes.
he had this appointed time for me to get my certification. He had this appointed time that when I got there, now I was ready. Now I was
Yeah.
ready mentally, spiritually, physically, in order to absorb what I was going to learn out of your certification class.
Yes.
Because after I met with you, I was in awe of you, what you did in your service, and you never charged me a penny. Not a penny did you charge me,
No.
and
No.
you did me more good than anything I can think of because um, I left there wanting to be helpful to somebody else like you were to me.
Wonderful.
I
Wonderful.
wanted to pass that along to someone else, that you know what, it might look like the end of the world to you right now, but it's just beginning. It is not the end. It is just the beginning.
Yes. Yes.
Except
Yes.
it's a process. Certain things
Yep.
have to take place. You have to finish what you ended over here. That chapter has to close, and now you got to open a new chapter.
Yes.
But you've got to be ready for getting rid of some old stuff,
Yes.
accepting
Yes.
some new stuff,
Yes.
replacing it, because some of the old belief systems, some of the old ways need to go out the door. They're not, if they're not aligned with the word of God, they need to be replaced.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and sometimes it can be painful because we have to, you know, and you have this saying, bad fruits or bad
Oh yeah.
roots give bad fruits. So
Exactly.
sometimes we got to cut those bad roots,
Yep.
and sometimes they got to get burned off. And yeah, it could hurt. But you know
Yep.
what? When new growth comes out,
Oh yeah.
it's going to be beautiful.
Beautiful indeed. Beautiful.
So, so out of the certification classes, I learned a lot more. And it gave me a new hunger to continue and to pursue it. But this is what's so amazing, Dr. C. Not only was I able to get my certification with you, I was able to do the other classes that you offered on emotional therapy, on
Yeah.
uh, on marriage, on family. So I was able to enjoy the other areas of counseling.
Yes.
And even though this was a certification in counseling, later on, you offered me to get my bachelor's
Yes.
in counseling. And that was another uh, amazing journey. It
Yeah.
was another eye opener.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was a
I
step up now to you
yes,
to get
yes,
a
and
degree.
yes, and one of my keys that I really enjoyed was the distorted thinking section,
Yes.
because when we went over that, that really made sense to a lot of things, all the different styles of distorted thinking, and how to deal with it, how to identify it, because that's the key in your counseling, was identifying the problem,
Yeah.
but not just overanalyzing it and sticking with it, but finding the solution.
Solutions.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
solution was always in the Word of God. And Dr. C,
Amen.
that was awesome. And not only was I able to get my bachelor's, I was able to get my master's in mediation. That was another
Yes. That's
journey
another step up.
that
Yep.
oh, I mean, all of this were catalysts. I mean, they were just amazing, adding new skills. Now, after the master's on mediation, my company acknowledged my degrees. Not only did they provide me and gave me my own computer, but they also gave me a promotion to be a manager, and they gave me my own office so that I could mediate and counsel our employees here.
And that's big, and most people don't understand how what we teach can elevate a person in their job. Most people don't
Yes,
know that.
but it does, because a lot of companies, they want to see that you pursue the education and you get the degree, and they were able to use me in a way that they couldn't before to help our own employees. Many of my employees here have been here 20 years, 25 years, and a lot of the people that come here, when they leave for another promotion or another, they go, I hate to leave you, Miss Ruth, because you were so much help to me. I think I've counseled practically everybody in our company here and helped them with some serious situations and
Yes,
helped them to understand. But it also gave them longevity with our company,
yes, yes.
you know. And I do think that my company recognizes that. And again, where somebody told me I'd never be used by God, I assure you, God doesn't stop until I don't think He'll stop using me until I stop breathing. You
Yes.
know,
You
and I
got
don't.
things to say.
Well, we never know who needs to hear the word.
Yeah.
We never know who's asking. You know, they're sinking and they want somebody to send them a life.
Lifeline.
You
Yeah.
just yeah, yeah, pull me out of this mess. You know,
Yes.
my daddy said one time, you cannot help anybody that's in a hole if you're in the hole with them. Somebody has to be out of the hole to
Yeah,
pull them.
somebody's got to be out of the hole.
Yes. And he was so right. You know, I don't want to be in the hole. I want to be out of the hole to help others out.
Yeah.
And I do think that God, like I said, had all this planned out already, and I'm still not there yet. I'm still working on my doctorates, trying to get that completed. So that my goal is, I would love to write books. I would like
Yep.
to write. And my youngest daughter, when we talk, she says, Rachel, she says, Mom, our conversations are therapy sessions, and I love them. And she told me the other day, she said, Mama, we need to do a podcast. We need to
Yes.
do a podcast about mothers and daughters or
Yes.
sibling rivalries or
I
stuff
think
like
you should do it. I think you should do
that.
it.
You know,
Y'all have so
and
much
she,
to share, insights about family.
oh, and she, you, out of all my three kids, she's the one who has really grabbed everything that I've said, learned, and she's implemented it in her family, in her own family. They all have blended families now, and they're lovely. Love it's beautiful the way they blend it, and God has sent them good husbands and good children, and again, you know, they. They know that, you know, they're so funny. My grandkids, if they have a problem, call grandma. Grandma will pray for you. God listens to grandma.
Ah,
And
ah.
and, and it is that's a good legacy to leave. It's a good
Yes,
legacy
it is.
to
Yeah.
know that pray, God will answer you. If he answered for grandma, I know he'll answer us, you know. And it's my story is very, very long. It has a lot of other chapters to it, but I guess out of all of it is God used you, Dr. C,
Well,
to
thank
answer a
the
phone
Lord.
of someone who was desperate, who was ready to throw in the towel. But it's like they say, you not only you didn't give me the fish to eat, but you showed me how
How to
to
fish.
catch the fish and how to feed myself and how to
Yes.
feed others. And I think that's what counseling is. Counseling is you're helping those that are in need. But I've always tell the people that I've counseled, all this that you're experiencing isn't just for right now. You're going to use it to help somebody else.
Absolutely. And that makes me really happy that you've actually used what I've taught, turned around to help other people along the way, even
Hmm.
at your job. And that's exciting to know that what I taught years ago, you actually used it.
Yes.
You actually used it. And that's what's important, to actually use what you learn. You put it into action. You put boot to it. You put it to use, to good use. So
And I mean,
I'm excited.
yeah, I still have the five, 3x5 cards. I have
Yes.
all the material you gave me. I still have it. I have the different, the books. Remember the different certification books that you had, all the different, I've got all the versions. And the one that was very helpful was the tapping. That
Oh yeah.
was
And
very,
actually, I have a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
that I meet with on Tuesday nights. It's a mentoring group I have on Tuesday nights. And I'm actually going to teach that group tonight, believe it or not, the tapping technique,
Yeah.
Emotional Freedom Through Christ, EFTC.
Yes.
I'm actually
Yes.
going to play a video that I made of how to do that for the group tonight at 7 o'clock. That's amazing
And
that you
and
mentioned
and
that.
again, one of the things that I feel why that works is because you are using all your senses. All
Yes.
your senses. You're hitting not only the points, the sensory points, but you're using it all. And the affirmations that you use are
Yeah.
so important also in it. Um, I
Yeah.
remember the prayers that you introduced me to in the scriptures. The one that I use a lot is the one in Ephesians.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I I don't know if you remember that one. I'm sure you do, but I've used that one time and time again. I use it as a sample to some of the people I've counseled when they have a member of their family that doesn't know God, or and they're struggling with him, and I tell them to pray that prayer over them with their name in it, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing how God moves and works in their lives. It really is. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you, Dr. C, is your ministry continues on.
Yeah. Well, you need to write a book that we talked about here
Hmm.
from your point of view, and I will endorse it. I will
Okay.
endorse the book because, and I have a friend. Uh, well, she actually uh, writes the book. I mean, once you send her the transcript, she
Hmm.
turns it into a book. That's part of her ministry.
Oh, awesome.
That's part of her ministry. And I
Awesome.
endorsed two of her books. I actually endorsed two of her books because she's a graduate of GGS. And now she has her own company that does that for people. And everybody that she has done books for, they're number one bestsellers, all of them.
Mm.
So when you get ready to put your book into print and get it published, I'll put you in contact with her,
I
and,
sure
and
will.
she and she will put it together. She'll put a cover on the book that you would like, and she will promote it through her company, and it'll be a big seller. And like I say, I'll write an endorsement. In fact, I
Okay.
endorsed two of her books that became number one bestsellers because she
Okay.
was a student at GGS.
Well,
So
that's that's
that was before she became a person who now helps people with her books. And so I endorsed her early on, and now she's a writer. She's very, very popular, very, very popular.
well. I don't know what else. We can talk
We,
again another time. I mean, like
I
I
think
told
you
you.
said it all, girl. I mean, we got it recorded. Now I will convert it into text.
Okay.
Then I'll edit the text where it needs to be. And then what I'll do, I'll shoot you a copy of the text where you can actually read it. And if you need
Okay.
to make any changes to the text, you can do that
Okay.
because I think it's going to be very helpful that we get this out to the public. People need to read this. They really
Okay.
do. They really do, Ruth. So
Okay.
anyway, you got on the call. It
Okay.
worked. I see your name. Your audio didn't come up. I think you need to click on video.
Okay.
See if you can click on video down there on the left and see if your picture doesn't come up. I think that's
Let's see.
the only thing that's missing
Let me show
is,
this.
yeah, hit the video and your picture will probably show up now. We're all learning.
Because it still has the X against it. So it's
Oh,
not going to allow.
that means it's
Oh,
there
there we
you
go.
are.
There you go.
There you are. See, it had an X by it.
Yeah.
And that means
Oh,
it's not on.
okay. All righty. Well, I'm going to have to wrap it up here. But
Love you, Ruth. You
I
are
love
the
you too.
best.
Okay. And if you need anything else, you just call me. Okay.
Okay, I'll send you a text with everything
Okay.
soon. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.